Most people think their problem is stress. They think the issue is pressure, lack of time, uncertainty, or difficult circumstances. But that's usually not the real problem. The real problem is that their mind never stops reacting. Every situation becomes another thing to analyze, another possibility to calculate, another conversation to replay, another future to fear. And after a while, they become disconnected from their own life. Because when your mind is constantly trying to control everything, you stop experiencing the present moment directly. You stop listening to yourself. You stop trusting yourself. What you have to understand is that overthinking is not intelligence. It's often a survival response. And most people never realize this because society rewards mental activity. If you are always thinking, planning, worrying, predicting, people assume you are responsible or productive. But internally, something very different is happening. Your nervous system stays in a constant state of tension. You become mentally exhausted, even when nothing physically demanding has happened. You wake up tired. You struggle to make simple decisions. You feel emotionally disconnected from things that once mattered to you. Think about it. How many times have you tried to solve your life entirely inside your head? You tell yourself that if you think long enough, eventually you'll arrive at certainty. But certainty never comes. Because the mind that created the confusion cannot create peace through more confusion. Let that sink in. Most people are trapped in loops of thought because they believe thinking creates control. But excessive thinking often creates the opposite. It weakens your connection to intuition. It weakens your ability to act. It weakens your emotional clarity. And slowly, your life becomes observation instead of participation. You watch opportunities instead of moving toward them. You rehearse conversations instead of speaking honestly. You imagine different futures instead of living the one unfolding in front of you. This is where everything changes. Because the goal is not to stop thinking completely. The goal is to stop treating every thought as truth. There's a difference. Your mind produces thoughts constantly. That's what it does. Some thoughts are useful. Some are protective. Some are irrational. Some are simply echoes of old emotional conditioning. But most people never question the source of their thoughts. They assume that because something appears in the mind, it must be important. It must be analyzed. It must be solved immediately. And that creates mental noise that never ends. Now stay with me here. A person who constantly overthinks is usually trying to avoid uncertainty. They want guarantees before they act. They want emotional safety before they move forward. They want complete clarity before making a decision. But life does not work that way. No transformation begins with certainty. Transformation begins with movement. And this is why many people stay stuck for years while appearing mentally busy every single day. They mistake mental activity for progress. But thinking about change is not the same as changing. You can analyze your fears for 10 years and still remain controlled by them. You can understand every psychological pattern you have and still repeat it tomorrow morning. Because awareness alone is not enough if the body and emotions remain conditioned to the same state. The truth is, overthinking becomes addictive because it creates the illusion that you are doing something. It feels productive. But internally, you are often avoiding one simple thing: direct experience. You are avoiding feeling your emotions without immediately analyzing them. You are avoiding silence. You are avoiding uncertainty. You are avoiding the present moment because the present moment cannot be fully controlled. And this is why so many people feel disconnected from themselves. Their attention is always somewhere else. In tomorrow, in regret, in imaginary conversations, in possible disasters that haven't happened. Meanwhile, life keeps moving. Now think about this carefully. Have you ever noticed that your clearest moments usually arrive when you stop forcing answers? Not when you overanalyze. Not when you obsess. But when your mind finally becomes quiet enough for clarity to appear naturally. That's because clarity is often blocked by mental noise. Most people are trying to hear their inner guidance while mentally shouting over it every minute of the day. And the body feels this. The body cannot fully relax when the mind is constantly scanning for problems. This creates emotional exhaustion that people mistake for lack of motivation. But many times, they are not unmotivated. They are mentally overloaded. Their attention has been fragmented for so long that even simple tasks feel heavy. And eventually, they start believing something is wrong with them. But there may be nothing wrong with you. You may simply be trapped in a pattern of constant mental resistance. A pattern that has been repeated so many times it now feels normal. This is important to understand because patterns repeated long enough begin to shape identity. If you spend years identifying as the anxious person, the overthinker, or the person who struggles, your mind starts protecting that identity, even when you consciously want change. This is why real transformation is not just behavioral. It's internal. You have to stop seeing yourself as someone trapped by every thought that enters your mind. Because you are not your thoughts. And most people hear that sentence without truly understanding it. So let's make it practical. A thought appears. What if I fail? Immediately, the body reacts emotionally. Then another thought appears. What if this never works? Then another. And another. Soon, an entire emotional reality is created from thoughts that were never verified in the first place. This is how people create suffering mentally before life even gives them a real problem. And over time, the subconscious mind learns this pattern. It expects fear. It expects tension. It expects overanalysis. So the mind keeps generating more of it. Not because you are broken, but because repetition creates familiarity. And familiarity feels safe to the nervous system, even when it creates suffering. Now here's what you do instead. You stop giving every thought your full attention, not through force, not through suppression, through observation. You notice the thought without immediately becoming it. That changes everything. Because the moment you observe a thought, instead of automatically obeying it, space appears. And inside that space, choice becomes possible. You begin realizing that many thoughts are temporary mental reactions, not permanent truths. This creates a different relationship with your mind. You stop fighting thoughts. You stop trying to control every emotion. You stop searching for certainty in every moment. Instead, you return to presence. Simple presence. You focus on what is actually happening right now instead of what might happen next week. You allow yourself to experience life directly again. And something surprising happens when you do this consistently. Your mind becomes clearer naturally. Not because you forced silence. Not because you mastered every technique. But because mental resistance begins to weaken. The body relaxes. Your attention becomes sharper. Decisions become simpler. And you start trusting yourself again. Not because you suddenly know all the answers, but because you realize you can handle uncertainty without mentally collapsing inside it. That realization changes the way you move through life. You stop needing perfect timing. You stop waiting for complete emotional certainty. You stop analyzing every possible outcome before taking action. And action itself begins creating clarity. This is something many people never understand. Clarity often comes after movement, not before it. Life responds to participation, not endless hesitation. So if your mind has been exhausted lately, if you feel trapped in constant mental noise, if you feel disconnected from yourself, take a moment and notice what is actually happening. Not the story about your life, not the imagined future, just this moment. Your breathing, your surroundings, your body, your awareness. Because peace is usually not absent. It's just buried underneath constant mental activity. And the more present you become, the more you realize that many of the problems consuming your mind only exist in imagined scenarios. The truth is, your life may begin changing the moment you stop trying to mentally control every part of it. Because real power is not found in obsessive thinking. It's found in inner stability, in awareness, in the ability to remain present without becoming consumed by every thought that appears. You are more than the noise in your mind. You are more than old emotional patterns. And there is a version of you that already exists beneath all this mental tension. Calm, clear, grounded. Not because life became perfect, but because you stopped fighting reality internally every moment of the day. So, the next time your mind begins spiraling into endless analysis, pause for a second. Observe the thought. Then return to the present moment. Again and again. That simple shift may change more than you realize. And if this way of understanding the mind and inner transformation speaks to something deeper inside you, subscribe to the channel and continue exploring these ideas with us. There's another video waiting for you that will help you understand why your mind keeps repeating the same emotional patterns and how to finally break the cycle consciously.